When I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs every morning to help me get large. And now that I'm grown, I eat 5 dozen eggs, so I'm roughly the size of a barge. Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today we're going to be doing an exclusive card reveal from the upcoming Lorcana Set 5 Shimmering Skies. Now, this is, I'm very lucky to be able to say that this is my 4th card reveal courtesy of Disney Lorcana and the Ravensburger team. A huge shout out and a huge thank you to them, as always, for all the opportunities that they've afforded me. But yeah, this one's pretty special because, believe it or not, today we'll be revealing our very first actual villain on the channel. In Rise of the Floodborn, I revealed the most diabolical scheme, which I'm still thrilled about, a very sentimental one for me. In Set 3, I revealed the bosses on a roll, so we kept with the villainous theme. Set 4, I revealed Mickey Mouse Musketeer Captain, who obviously isn't a villain, but I'm a big fan of Mickey Mouse, and it's a legendary, and it's such an important character, so I was honoured to get the opportunity to be the one to reveal that. But today, people, today, we'll be revealing our first ever villain on the channel. We're going to jump pretty much straight into it. A quick shout out to the channel sponsors, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, please check out Cardmarket. Other than that, let's jump straight in and take a look at the card. Alright, so we got a big boy to show you today. I will be revealing a brand new Gaston card. This is Gaston Pure Paragon, and this is going to be a Ruby card. A shout out to Dave Alvarez and Livio Cacciatore. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing that second name, but to these two artists that both worked on this card, doesn't he just look absolutely dapper? A true man among men, which happens to be his ability, which we'll get to in a moment. But yes, he is a big old boy. He is a 9-cost uninkable. He has 10 strength and 6 willpower, quests for 2, and my boy ain't waiting around. This Gaston has rush. So already that's pretty interesting. There's a big old boy, a huge stat line. 10-6 takes out pretty much anything in the game. And questing for 2 is not insignificant. And rush just makes him an instant answer to whether it's big locations or big bodies. But it gets a little bit better. We have the ability, a man among men. For each damaged character you have in play, you pay 2 ink less to play this character. So this has been a bit of a reoccurring theme throughout the Shimmering Skies set so far. We've seen a couple of big characters who get a reduced cost based on you doing something or something just being present on the board. And yeah, in this case, for each character that we have that's damaged, we pay 2 less. So that could be super, super interesting. So pros and cons. I'll start with the pros. Obviously, 10-6, as I mentioned, is a huge stat line. This is going to one-shot pretty much everything in the game. Of course, there's situations where things could be getting resist and all that jazz. But more often than not, you are one-shotting whatever you challenge with Gaston. And like I said, with that rush, that's super good. 6 willpower means a lot of the time he's going to survive the hit. There's a couple of exceptions, such as Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, and a couple more, but by and large, you should live the hit off this, so that's pretty good. Questing for 2 is also really, really good. Obviously, the main reason we're going to be playing Gaston, if we do opt to play him, is because he's just a big beat stick that can rush and immediately take out things. But like I said, if we are surviving, then being able to sit there and quest each turn is also really, really good. He doesn't come with Reckless or anything like that you would normally associate with these big rush beat sticks. So those are all really good things. And yeah, this ability to pay 2 ink less, I'd say it's a pro and it's a con. So on the pro side, this is something that you should be able to set up fairly consistently yourself. Maybe consistently is the wrong word, but my point being, we have cards that can do this self-damage. The ideal curve, the cards we'll talk about first, are of course our 1-drop Mulan Injured Soldier, who has 2/3 stat line, quest for 1, and Battle Wound. She enters play with 2 damage already on her. Secondly, we have Mother Gothel, who's a 2-cost inkable 3/4 quest for 1, and she enters play with 3 damage on her. And we have the newest of these, well, this came out the same set as Mulan, but we have the Beast Wounded, 3 3-cost inkable, 2/6, quest for 2. This character enters play with 4 damage. So these are characters that immediately come in with damage, so could be a way of us setting up to get this Gaston out. Obviously the 2 and 3 costs are like a little bit, asking a little bit too much maybe, but just this Mulan, just putting down one of these, suddenly you're only playing 7 for Gaston, so if you're at 8, then that's a way that we can set it up. Again, this is assuming we have a completely clear board and we have to like set this up from scratch. There's also cards like Teeth and Ambitions, which is obviously a 2-cost inkable song, do 2 damage on one of your characters to put 2 damage on an opposing one. And those, I think, really are going to be our main ways of helping us set this up preemptively. We're also getting a new card in Shimmering Skies called Break Free. 1-cost inkable action. You do 1 damage to chosen character of yours, and they gain Rush and get +1 Strength this turn. So I don't know how much play this necessarily will see, especially because if you're giving Rush to another character, then do you still need the Gaston? Maybe in some situations, but this is the one that I'm least confident would actually like see play. But it's something that you could if you really wanted to get Gaston online. And of course we're getting the new Chromacon cards, the steel one of course, having Steel Light, exert, deal 1 damage to chosen character, and there's a couple of other cards where you can do self-ping, like there's a 2-drop Robin Hood, but really I think it's the Mulan and the Gothel and potentially and definitely the Teeth and Ambitions and the Mulan are going to be your most consistent ways of setting this up, but also potentially the Gothel and even potentially the Beast Wounded. Plus we could just be in a situation where we just have a board of a couple of damage characters, especially with Emerald cards in the next set, having a lot of cards that really benefit from having your opponent having chip damage on them, a lot of the Robin Hood kind of cards. So if that ever becomes something that's good, where they just want to damage your characters and then leave them on the board, then that sets up Gaston really, really well. Now for negatives, as I say, this ability isn't always going to be consistent. Like I say, it's sometimes going to take a little bit of setup with Mulans and Teeth and Ambitions. It's not guaranteed that when you draw Gaston or have Gaston when you actually need him, you're always going to be able to set up this damage. It depends how you set up your deck. So this Man Among Men, it's I'd rather have it than not have it, but it's not always consistent, but you could build your deck to make it consistent. And that's why I think the prime deck target for Gaston Pure Paragon immediately is probably going to be Mufasa decks. Ruby, Amber, Mufasa. And to be honest, even non-Mufasa decks, just Ruby, Amber is a good color combination in general, utilizing those cards like Gothel and Mulan and things like Rapunzel. So yeah, I think Ruby, Amber could absolutely benefit from this the most. And again, if you are running Mufasa, then this is a great hit off of the Mufasa. So that's where I expect to see this before anywhere else. The second most likely deck that I could imagine might want to run this is Ruby Sapphire, but not necessarily straight away. They've already started running Hercules as an answer to the castle. This is still pretty good, again, especially if you're ramped. You could potentially get this down without even utilizing the self-damage characters to pay 2 less. Just to remove whether it is the Queen's Castle because you don't have the Hercules, or maybe they move away from Hercules in favor of this. Or if it's just something big and bulky like Tamatoa. So I'm not convinced this immediately goes into Ruby Sapphire decks, but I definitely think it's a consideration, and it may end up being a meta response. Just if opposing Ruby Sapphire ends up being one of the better decks, then maybe they need this as a way to be able to answer certain things. I don't know, I'm less convinced on it being a Ruby Sapphire card. I'm really convinced it goes into Gaston, at least 1 or 2 copies. But Ruby Sapphire I think is the next most likely to potentially benefit from it, especially because it's got 2 lore on him, so we can benefit from Lucky Dime. So that could be a possibility. After that, I'm not so sure it goes into Ruby Amethyst decks. Probably not. The exception is going to be more in the future. So this is definitely something you want to get a playset for, because you've got to think at some point we are going to get... I'm going to bet it's going to be a location, which is going to have this 10 willpower and is going to be akin to Queen's Castle in terms of power, or even if not as good as Queen's Castle, still just really, really good, something we need to be able to remove straight away. And if and when that time comes, we may need this just because it's an immediate rush, do 10 damage. So yeah, I actually think this is a really exciting one. I straight off the back of Shimmering Skies meta, I think it's only Mufasa that really considers this the most. Maybe Ruby Sapphire as time goes on as a response, but I definitely think in the future this is a card that's going to get better and better and better. Also, a little bit more on the fun side, if you want to run some Ruby Emerald, then we could run the 2-cost Arrogant Hunter Gaston, and we could play the Hades from Ursula's Return, who exerts, and you banish a character to play another one of the same name. I don't know how good that is, but it is something that you could do, that you could have, like, turn 2 Gaston, turn 4 Hades. So yeah, turn 5, you could get this down, but to be fair, like, there are situations where you can get this down on turn 5 with Ruby Amber as well, or just Ruby in general. If you go turn 1 Mulan, turn 2 Gothel, then you're paying 5 for this. So you would need to go to turn 3, maybe play a Doc, or maybe the Amber Gaston. Maybe you have fun with the Amber Gaston to get out this big Gaston. There's definitely a lot of fun that can be had here. But yeah, I do think Mufasa decks maybe want to utilize this, or just Ruby Amber decks. And in the future, I think this is something that Ruby Sapphire may want to pick up just as a response card to whatever's in meta. But yeah, I'm a big old fan of Gaston Pure Paragon. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll keep it short and sweet. What do you think of Gaston Pure Paragon? Please let me know down in the comments. Maybe there's something I've missed that could be a really nice way of utilizing this card. And yeah, are you considering it for one of your decks? If you're a Ruby Amber player, do you agree that this is a high consideration? And if you're Ruby Sapphire, talk to me. What do we think? Do we think this is an include sooner than I am anticipating? Or is it, like I say, we need to wait until there's a real target that demands this villain? But yeah, that's pretty much it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.